The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke. Jesus said to his disciples, "There will be signs in the sun, the moon, and the stars. And on earth nations will be in dismay, perplexed by the roaring of the sea and the waves. People will die of fright in anticipation of what is coming upon the world. For the powers of heavens will be shaken. And then they will see the Son of Man coming in a cloud with power and great glory. But when these signs begin to happen, stand erect and raise your heads, because your redemption is at hand. Beware that your hearts do not become drowsy from carousing and drunkenness, and the anxieties of daily life, and that they catch you by surprise like a trap. For that day will assault everyone who lives on the face of the earth. Be vigilant at all times and pray that you have the strength to escape the tribulations that are imminent and to stand before the Son of Man." The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord.
Why such a scary gospel at the beginning of Advent, when we may say, why the liturgy is not proposing us a nicer gospel, full of hope, full of joy for the arrival of Jesus, right? Why are we talking about people getting scared? We feel scared as well. Well, this reading is in a worse, much even worse context, because we didn't read all the chapter 21. We just read a part of it. There is something worse that we didn't read, actually. We are in the temple, and this is the last week of Jesus, the last week of his life. He is in the temple of Jerusalem, and right after, you remember, those people putting a lot of money in the treasure of the temple, and that widow putting just some few coins, and Jesus praising her, right? At that point, somebody is telling to Jesus, "Look, why don't you admire the beauty of the temple?" Well, the temple of Jerusalem was one of the 7 beauties of the ancient world. It was really a great thing. And those people telling to Jesus, "Don't you admire with us, the beauty of this temple?" They were right. But they got an answer from Jesus so unexpected. Because Jesus said, and we are at the beginning of chapter 21, Jesus said, there will be one day that it will not remain one stone upon another stone. That everything will be thrown down. And so you can imagine, for a Jew, what it is, to hear something like this. Imagine that you built it took you your whole life in order to build something, and then somebody will tell you it will be destroyed very soon. You will be well, not only sad, you will be even upset about it. And this is the reaction of the people in front of Jesus. And Jesus is not stopping. He's adding much more. What we read in this gospel, and also he talks about persecutions. But this is the part that the liturgy took out from the gospel of today. Persecution. They will put their hands on you, and they will kill some of you. This is the contest. Why? Why this gospel? Well, actually, you may be surprised, but this is this is a gospel of joy. Why? Why is a gospel of joy? Why? Jesus is really trying to give us what we are looking for. He's trying to give us hope, even though what is going to happen. It's the last week of Jesus, and Jesus has to prepare the disciples to something really bad that is going to happen to him. So for the apostles, especially, the death of Jesus will be even worse of the temple being destroyed. So, the death of the Messiah. And that way. So now we understand why Jesus has to prepare the disciples to something bad, but that is not really bad. Because it's only through the cross of Jesus that salvation is coming. So Jesus is trying to let the disciples to see what good there is in a tragedy, in what looks like a tragedy. And then there is also another thing, in this gospel, we also get that idea that we usually have, which is to be afraid of a sudden death, that I might not be prepared for. And so sometimes you might have this kind of thoughts. Oh, well, I didn't go to confession, but I have to go for a long trip. What if something happens? What if something happens to me? I might have a car accident. So there could be an unexpected death, and I'm not prepared. So this kind of thing is resulting from this gospel also. And we do have this kind of thoughts. The answer to this was very well given, according to me, by a priest, a general father, a father general of a religious congregation, that day that he was invited. I mentioned this once, that he was invited to the funeral of a priest of his congregation who committed suicide. It happened a few years ago in Sicily. And yes, something happened, nobody really knows, but there was something going on, with this poor priest. And one night he was invited at dinner to a family. They were at the 4th floor in Palermo. And after dinner, he went out. There was a balcony, and he just jumped, and he died. A priest, a religious, a consecrated person. So when there was the funeral of this priest, everybody was waiting for the homily. Let's see what now the celebrant is going to say about the suicide of a priest. And that priest, I said, he was the general father of the congregation, of that congregation. his name was Father Flavio, really a great priest. And the funeral of that priest was celebrated in the Cathedral of Palermo, which is a huge cathedral. A lot of people there. It was a young priest. And he started the homily saying, "You don't judge the life of a man from the last moment of desperation. You need to look at the entire arc of a life. And so I am proud of this son for all that he did, even though at the end he went through so many troubles and he was left alone and he couldn't go out of it." And I think that the same thing is saying God, because God is not in time. For us, there is time, but not for God. God is always in eternity. So your life, when you are born and when you die, every second is present to God. So why should we look at it as if it was a Russian roulette? A Russian roulette. As if, it doesn't matter what I do my entire life. It's only up to the last second. If I am in the grace of God in the last second, I will be fine. This is ridiculous. Right? It cannot be this way. If you're a good person, and if you love God, it doesn't matter if the last second something happened to you. If your heart belongs to God, you will be with God. And that's all. So, no more fear of death. Death is just a transformation. This is what the preface says at every funeral. To your children, O Lord, life is not taken away, but is only transformed. In fact, Jesus, if we read well in this gospel, he's saying that when all these terrible things are happening, raise your head, because your salvation is coming. You see, this is not a scary gospel. There are scary things happening around us. And there are, yes. You switch on TV and you will see that. Of course, you can just read to one newspaper, and all around the world, every day, there is something scary happening. So Jesus is preparing to the apostles for not being afraid. So, for us, Christians, life should be always like going through maybe terrible things, but in your heart, you should always have the peace of God. You should always have a steady heart, because our hope is in God and in eternal life. In this sense, we can really say that it is enough that you believe that Jesus is the Lord, and you are already fine. And that is enough for you. So you see that now something nice is coming from this gospel. Yes, Jesus is not actually, in this sense we have to say, he's not actually talking about the end of the world. It seems that we are talking about the end of the world. But if that was the case, this wouldn't be a gospel for us. And not a gospel for the people who lived for this past 2,000 years. Probably not for us. And probably there will be 2,000 years more before the end of the world. And the end of the world, as a concept, it will regard only how many people, probably 0.01% of the whole humanity. So you think that Jesus took his time, and also Luke wrote this page only for so few people? Of course not. Gospel is for everybody. This gospel is for us. And this gospel is also for those who heard Jesus saying these things, and is for all the people who already died without seeing the end of the world. Because the end of the world, for all of us, will coincide with my personal death at the end. So the end of the world will be the end of my world. But not only that. Jesus is not saying, look intensively and be scared and be prepared to the last part of your life. No, we are saying every moment Jesus is coming in your life. Today, Jesus is coming in our life. In this Mass, Jesus is coming in our life. In this sense, it's Christmas every day. Every day, Jesus is coming in my life. So every day, I should be not scared, so prepared, but joyful. And that joy should prepare my heart. Also to say, yes, Lord, I have a lot of sins, but I trust in you. This simple thought prepares you to anything, to the coming of Jesus, and you will stop being scared of it, and you will start desiring Jesus coming anytime.